Okay, let's go ahead and get started, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome. ATSSA is pleased to have you with us today. Today's webinar is hosted by the ATSSA Training Department and the Roadway Worker Safety Council. My name is Donna Clark, and I will be the moderator for today's webinar entitled FHWA's Proven Safety Countermeasures. Today's webinar will be about 45 minutes in length. We ask that you keep your line muted during the webinar unless you are speaking. If during the webinar you have a question or a comment, please utilize the Q&A feature. At the end of the webinar, which will be about 30 minutes in length, we'll have time to answer your questions. So with that, I'd like to introduce today's speaker, Mike Griffith of the Federal Highway Administration. Mike is the Director of the Office of Safety Technologies at Federal Highway. Mike, take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Donna. I really appreciate the opportunity to meet with ATSSA today. I was able to go to the annual meeting in Tampa and see many of you there, and certainly enjoyed the warm weather, but today is virtual. So let's see. Can you see my presentation, Donna, or do I need to share again?
You will need to share it again, Mike.
Okay, very good.
All right.
All
It's
right.
up. Awesome. You're good.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to go through Federal Highway Administration's Proven Safety Countermeasure Initiative, and certainly look forward to the opportunity to get into a Q&A at the end. With respect to the history behind this initiative, we started this back in 2008. And we have updated it 4 times now. So updated in 2012, 2017, and just recently last year. Originally, we had 20 countermeasures through these first 3 rounds. And it's important for me to tell you how we identified these countermeasures. First, we review the literature and find out which countermeasures are proven to be effective based on rigorous research findings. And we do a pretty extensive review of the literature to narrow the list down to ones that are highly effective, and we feel really confident in the research that supports these countermeasures. And then also ones that have not received wide-scale deployment. So what we want to do is provide national leadership and give visibility to countermeasures that are not being used extensively across the country. And we have been very successful up to this point in really shining a light on these countermeasures that when we originally added them to our list, they were just at the early stages of deployment. We have given a lot of technical assistance and guidance over the years on the various countermeasures. And during the first 3 rounds, we did track implementation progress in getting reports from the states on the use of these countermeasures. They're not mandated. We're just encouraging the use of them. There are other countermeasures in the toolboxes that state and local agencies have. And we're just giving a little support for these countermeasures in terms of agencies giving some consideration of them. We certainly see all these countermeasures supporting our different priorities. We have our Deputy Administrator, Stephanie Pollock, has put a big focus on complete streets. The way she describes complete streets are streets that are found to be safe through research, but also they feel safe. The safe system approach, I gave a presentation on this particular approach at ATSSA on Saturday morning, 8 o'clock at the Public Agencies Committee meeting, and went into a lot of detail. But in terms of what you see on the slide, you can see the different elements in the circle here. safe vehicles, safe speed, safe roads, post-crash care, and safe road users. And then on the outside, principles that shape the safe system approach. And I think, you know, in your time in working in safety, you have probably seen these elements and principles, but we have them all together through this holistic approach in terms of addressing safety. And really, we are not in the same place where other countries are in advancing the safe system approach. So we have a ways to go. There's a lot of work that has been done over the past several decades that tie directly to the safe system approach, but we certainly have some gaps. To mention a couple of them, speed management, we have a long way to go in this country. During the pandemic, we have seen some really terrible statistics when it comes to speeding, and really at the upper end in terms of reckless speeding, people driving over 100 miles per hour. And that has been one of the areas where we've seen an increase in fatalities. And I meant to mention during my opening slide, and I'm going to basically point it out now, but in 2020, we had, NHTSA just reported, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, 38,824 people lost their lives on the nation's highways, which was a 6.8% increase compared to 2019. And in terms of speeding related crashes, we had a 17% uptick compared to 19. Alcohol impaired fatal crashes up 14%. Motorcycle fatalities up 11%, the highest ever number of motorcycle fatalities since data collection started in 1975. Bicycle fatalities up 9%, highest number since 1987. Pedestrian fatalities up 4%, highest number since 1989. 2020 was obviously a very horrendous year when it comes to the safety on our streets. There's been a lot of research on what's happened during the pandemic. There has obviously been more risky driving, people speeding, people not wearing their safety belts, people speeding impairment. It's all these combination of factors that have caused these increases that you've seen. The good news is we do have these proven safety countermeasures to help address some of the problems out there. And so these proven safety countermeasures also help address equity when it comes to improving all the different modes of safety, including for bicyclists and pedestrians and how they get around, and then making sure we provide that accessibility to ensure equity for everyone. And then on the climate side, we have proven safety countermeasures that support active transportation, people that are taking micromobility, such as scooters that you see here in Washington, D.C., where I am, or people riding their bikes or walking. That's all reduces the carbon footprint. So these are the countermeasures that we advanced during the first 3 rounds. And I'm not going to spend any time on these, just to show you that we have countermeasures that address roadway departure crashes, intersection crashes, pedestrian bicyclists, and then ones that are more like cross-cutting strategies, not they don't fit the typical mold of a countermeasure, such as local road safety plans. So the rest of the presentation is going to focus on the new ones. Like I said, we did a pretty rigorous review of the literature to narrow the list down for the new set. We got it down to about 30 countermeasures where we really did a very comprehensive review. I had a great team within FHWA across different offices that came together and ended up identifying 9 new ones, which will be the focus of the rest of the presentation. We have a lot of different resources on our website, these different fact sheets, We've posted some videos, we've done social media campaign, and we're doing presentations like the one today to shine a light on these various safety countermeasures. Here are the new ones. Rectangular rapid flashing beacons, lighting for intersections and segments, crosswalk visibility enhancements, pavement friction management, wider edge lines, bicycle lanes, variable speed limits, speed safety cameras, and appropriate speed limits for all road users. So we'll start with rectangular rapid flashing beacons. You should be all aware that these are used at uncontrolled marked crosswalks. I've got one about a half mile from my house. It's used at a metro station. It gets people from one side of the street to the other to access the metro station. I find it to be very effective. I find that drivers yield to this device when it flashes. And the research shows you get a 47% reduction in pedestrian crashes. And we have found that these flashing beacons are particularly effective at multi-lane crossings where you have speed limits less than 40 miles per hour. Crosswalk visibility enhancements. There are 3 different crosswalk visibility enhancements that can help make crosswalks safer for pedestrians and more visible to drivers. We have lighting, high visibility crosswalks, and advanced yield or stop markings and signs. So for lighting, we know that lighting can be expensive, but it is effective in terms of reducing all types of crashes. We know that 50% of all fatalities happen at night, but only 25% of the traffic occurs at night. And so we know that darkness creates problems for everyone with the reduced visibility. We also know at nighttime we have more impairment and other risky behavior that happens at night. And lighting can help address some of the issues, certainly not all of them. But you do get a 42% reduction in pedestrian crashes. And then with high visibility crosswalks, you can reduce pedestrian injury crashes up to 40%. And then advanced stop yield or stop markings and signs can reduce pedestrian crashes up to 25%. These type of signs and markings are appropriate for 2 or 3 lane roads with 30-mile-per-hour speed limit or less. Bicycle lanes. So Washington, D.C., again, I keep giving examples because that's where I live. They've really built out the network of their bicycle lanes and have made it more comfortable and more safe for bicyclists to get around. And some of them are separated, some of them are not. What you see in this photograph here is, I would call it a light separation in terms of you got a little bit of a buffer there between the motorized traffic lane and where the bicyclists ride. You can obviously put bike lanes on new roadways, but then you can create bike lanes on existing roads by reallocating travel lane and shoulder widths to get that extra spacing to put a bike lane in. And we have found a 49% reduction in total crashes on urban 4-lane undivided collectors and local roads. And then a 30% reduction in total crashes on urban 2-lane undivided collectors and local roads. We are completing some research to look at what's the benefits of separated bike lanes. What extra benefit do you get if you do provide that physical separation? Based on international experience and some preliminary indications from the US, we do see you can get some greater benefits by providing that separation. Wider edge lines, 6-inch. So along roadways where you've got the edge lines installed, most agencies have traditionally used a 4-inch line, and there are states that have used 6-inch lines, and we have found through the research that you definitely get some nice benefits from doing that. You get obviously greater visibility of the line and the road edge when you have that extra 2 inches. And we have found 37% reduction in non-intersection fatal and injury crashes on rural 2-lane roads. And then for rural freeways, a 22% reduction in fatal and injury crashes. And we get a very high benefit cost ratio, 25-1 for fatal and serious injuries on 2-lane rural roads. I did mention pedestrian lighting a minute ago. This slide is focused more on overall lighting for intersections and segments. As I mentioned, we know 50% of all fatal crashes occur during the darkness, and lighting is obviously one countermeasure that can address that problem. At intersections, at urban, suburban, and rural, signalized and unsignalized intersections, the research shows a 42% reduction in nighttime injury pedestrian crashes, and then a 38% reduction in overall nighttime intersection crashes. And then if you look at what's happening on segments when you apply lighting, you get a 28% reduction on rural and urban freeways of nighttime injury. I'm sorry, a 28% reduction in nighttime injury crashes on urban highways. I'm not sure we have enough research on rural highways right now, but what you see for urban highways is good. And we do have a video that's posted on our website that focuses on Florida DOT as a case study and what they have done with lighting on some of their roads and some of the successes they have had. Pavement friction management. There are really two pieces here. One is dealing with high friction surface treatments, and then the other piece is continuous pavement friction measurement. When I was at ATSSA in Tampa, there was a lot of discussion on high friction surface treatments. There was also discussion about doing this network pavement friction measurement. The good news with high friction surface treatment, we really get some nice reduction, 63% for injury crashes at ramps, 48% reduction in injury crashes at curves, horizontal curves, and then a 20% reduction in overall crashes at intersections. And then continuous pavement friction measurement. This is something that's really starting to catch on in certain states that allows them to obtain both network and segment data on pavement friction. Really gives them that comprehensive picture of where they have some deficiencies. And you can measure friction at highway speeds and really strategically allow you to apply your resources across your network in terms of providing different treatments to get the necessary friction at key locations. Moving over to the speed side, variable speed limits, they've been around for a while. I would say that in certain states they're used, in other states they're not used at all. But basically, they're speed limits that change dynamically based on different conditions. It could be based on weather conditions. It can be based on what's happening out there in terms of overall traffic flow or crashes that may have occurred. You want to adjust the speed limits accordingly. And certainly work zones is an important area where if you've got workers present, you really probably want to have that lower speed limit that's going to be displayed. Versus at times when the workers are not there, perhaps you can go to a higher speed limit. In terms of safety effectiveness, you get 34% reduction in total crashes, 65% reduction in rear end crashes, and a 51% reduction in fatal and injury crashes. These type of speed limits are particularly effective on freeways and also high speed arterials that are greater than 40 miles per hour. Speed safety cameras, there's been a lot of debate on this particular countermeasure recently. You really have to get it right. There are a lot of policy issues that need to be considered. Number one, speed safety cameras need to be used for safety and not to generate revenue. That's why we include the title safety in between speed and cameras, because ultimately, if you're going to use this countermeasure, make sure that you're truly using it for safety purposes, and that's what you're communicating to the public. I have seen speed safety cameras not go well in jurisdictions where it's been promoted as generating revenue for that jurisdiction, and that has not gone over well with the public. You have to build public trust, and you have to really educate them on what you're trying to accomplish with the use of these cameras. And you also need to look at equity issues. There has been research that shows that sometimes these speed safety cameras go into communities where it's lower income communities where the drivers that end up getting the tickets may not actually be able to afford them, and it can create some challenging issues in terms of how they're implemented. There are different types of units. There's fixed point units, point-to-point mobile units. Fixed point is you just, like it indicates, you drive by a fixed point. If you're over a certain threshold, the camera takes a picture, and then you get a ticket in the mail. They can be effective, obviously, a 54% reduction in all crashes and a 47% reduction for injury crashes. And then New York City has found in areas where there are schools, there's been a 63% reduction in speed. Point to point is basically taking your average speed over a certain segment. So maybe across, let's say, 1 to 5 miles, you're on a corridor. It's going to take your average speed, and then depending upon what your average speed is, it'll either give you a ticket or not give you a ticket. And actually, I probably should have this slide before speed safety cameras, and I had that before and realized I didn't switch it, but it's really important that if you're going to use speed safety cameras, and even if you don't use speed safety cameras, you need to make sure you've got appropriate speed limits out there for all road users. This is an issue that's being looked at as part of the METCD update. As part of the safe system approach, there's a very strong emphasis on safe speeds, trying to manage kinetic energy to tolerable levels. Speed is one of the major factors when it comes to kinetic energy that would be generated in a crash. And whatever agencies can do to manage their speeds can make a huge difference. And you've got to start with whatever speed limits you have out there. You can set the speed limits through statute, where you have statutory limits, or you can set speed limits for individual segments of roads, where you use different resources and tools that are shown here. There's been a lot of debate around the 85th percentile speed as a factor in setting speed limits, and that's being carefully looked at as part of the METCD update. But there are a lot of factors you need to consider. You need to consider what the crash history is. You need to consider what level of activity do you have out there for pedestrians and bicyclists, traffic volumes, land use context, and several other factors help inform ultimately what's the right speed limit to put out there. To achieve those desired speeds in the end, you really have to use all the different strategies in your toolbox, but you first got to put this right speed limit out there and then bring these other strategies in to help get the target speeds that you're trying to achieve. So that's a quick run through of all the countermeasures. You can go to our website. We've got a lot of different resources. You can use our filter tool, which allows you to filter down countermeasures by different focus areas. So for example, for intersections, you can look at the crash types that you're experiencing, and that tool will identify particular countermeasures that can be used to address that problem. We have a book kind of shown over to the right there that has all 28 countermeasures with individual fact sheets for each one. So when you have a chance, check out our website. You can get a lot of information there. And again, these are just one set of countermeasures to consider. We're not promoting these as the only countermeasures to consider. There are a lot of different strategies and tools that agencies have. We're promoting these countermeasures right now because there hasn't been much wide-scale deployment across the country. And given that they're proven to be effective, we really just want agencies to give consideration to them. And ultimately, as we all want to do, is save lives through using these effective strategies that cut across a lot of different areas. So with that, Donna, I am done with my presentation and willing to take any questions that we may have.
Great. Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate that presentation. Very interesting. So for the audience, please use the Q&A feature to type in your questions for Mike, and we will address those as they come in. Mike, in the meantime, someone did ask if your presentation was available. So can we give out the PowerPoint slides that you used today?
Yeah, I think I sent you mine. I might just want to, like I said, switch the order between the speed limits and the camera one. That's a minor change, but I can do that right after this and send it back to you.
Okay. And is this project wrapped up, or will there be additional safety countermeasures identified in the future?
Yeah, so basically what we do is about every 5 years, we form a team within the agency and we review, like I said, like what we did this time, we review the literature. We look at what countermeasures are obviously proven to be effective. And then we get a sense of, what's their level of deployment? Are they being implemented? Maybe they're being implemented in certain parts of the country, but other parts really haven't grabbed hold of them yet. And so we're really going to every few years, our plan is to update the list. And, during the 5 years that we're in now, we just kicked off the new one. We are constantly providing technical assistance and training. So if any public agency is interested in learning more and trying to get some technical assistance, that's why we're here. So more than happy to help.
Great. And will there be guidance coming out on how the safe systems approach is integrated into development of strategic highway safety plans?
Yes, we actually have a report that addresses that. So if I can, I'll try to drop that in the chat pod before we wrap up here.
Okay, great. And then the next question, for DOTs not allowing digital or variable speed limits, what can their staff do to help advance efforts to allow DSL or VSL in work zones from a legal standpoint? Is there something that the feds can aid in encouragement?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It sounds like basically maybe those are not allowed in a particular state. I mean, the best we can do is just show what the data shows, what the research shows, and how effective they are. We don't have the authority to mandate that they use variable speed limits, but we continuously show what the research is indicating and encourage the use of them. But in the end, if they're not legally allowed in the state, then we kind of hit up against the wall there a little bit in terms of what we're allowed to do. So.
Okay. Great. At the beginning of your presentation, you gave a lot of statistics on, fatalities and the causes of those. Do you have any recent statistics on particularly worker fatalities in the last year or two?
Yes, we would have to look that up. I don't have it right in front of me right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let's see, where do you send information on a product or idea that should or could be reviewed as a possible safety countermeasure in road construction safety?
Well,
if
I'd
someone
say,
has an idea, is there a venue or a way to get that to you guys?
yeah, I'm typing. I can see the question here. I just popped open the box here. I'm going to drop my name and email address in here. That's probably the easiest way to do it.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Mike at this time? Give it just another minute or so.
Yeah, while you do that, I'm going to try to see if I can find the one report.
Okay. I have a couple things to tell people anyway while you're looking for that. So just as a reminder for the audience, on March 22nd, we will have the second in our webinar series on worker safety. And the topic is going to be effective incident management. And of course, that's going to be free to our members. So be on the lookout for the registration link for that. We hope you'll join us for that webinar. Any other questions for Mike right now? Okay, Mike, I think that is probably it. Thank you all for joining us today. And Mike, thank you for taking the time to present the proven safety countermeasures with us. We look forward to the next rendition of them.
So Donna,
yeah.
I do have, I think it was Adam who asked for a link on the Safe System Approach and SHSP, Strategic Highway Safety Plan. I just sent a link in the chat pod to it.
Got it. Okay. I hope everybody sees that. If you don't, for some reason, just let us know. We can send it to you via email or however you like to get it.
I just, I put in the Q&A, but I'm putting in the chat box my name and email address. So, yeah, I appreciate the opportunity, everyone, and reach out to me if you have more questions.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. We greatly appreciate your time today. For the participants, if you just stay on the line for just a few minutes longer, we have a quick survey we want you to fill out. Should only take a minute or so. Mike, thanks again, and everybody take care and have a good and safe day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.